If your grandmother was anything like mine, she never threw out a worn bedsheet. She folded it, patched it, and found it one more job before winter came. A thin sheet became a child's towel. A torn pillowcase guarded the good one. A frayed quilt still covered someone on the coldest night of the year. To us, it looked like laundry that should have been thrown out years ago. To her, every worn piece was warmth, mending, or care, waiting for its next job. Here are 25 things Grandma did with old linens, back when you used a thing until it had nothing left to give. And the question behind that whole linen closet was quiet but serious. How much comfort could a household pull from cloth that was no longer new? That question mattered when money was tight, stores were far, or winter arrived before payday. It mattered in farmhouses, mill towns, city apartments, and small houses with cold bedrooms. This is not a story about pretending the past was easier than it was. It is about the everyday genius hiding in a closet most of us would call clutter today. The first thing was turning worn clothing and old cloth into a scrap quilt. A man's work shirt with frayed cuffs could still have good fabric across the back. A child's outgrown dress, a faded flour sack, or a tired apron still held usable pieces. The weak places were cut away, and the sound pieces were stitched into blocks. For many families, a quilt was not decoration first. It was winter protection. It was built from cloth the household had already paid for once. A square of blue work shirt, a strip of feed sack, a piece of Sunday cotton. Together, they became a warmer night for someone who needed it. The second thing was patching pillowcases before the feathers or stuffing got out. Pillowcases almost always failed at the corners, where rubbing did its slow, steady work. A small square of muslin or matching cloth could cover the weak place in minutes. The repair did not need to impress anyone. It only needed to hold. A hole was not a death sentence. It was a message from the cloth, saying, "Catch me now." The real skill was not only sewing the patch. It was noticing the damage while the thing still had life left in it. The third thing was turning a worn sheet to get more years out of it. Sheets thinned in the center first, under shoulders, hips, and restless sleeping feet. A careful housekeeper cut the sheet down the middle and sewed the strong outer edges together. The worn center moved to the sides, where the fabric took far less strain. The sheet was not new again, but it could serve another season under heavier covers. That was a different way of seeing value. Modern life asks, "Is it still perfect?" Grandma asked, "Where can it still serve?" The fourth thing was cutting old sheets into towels, washcloths, and cleaning rags. When a sheet could no longer belong on a bed, its edges still had work to do. Hemmed pieces became dish towels, face cloths, or rags for muddy boots. Roffer pieces wiped windowsills, stove lids, and water tracked across the floor. The old sheet was not thrown away. It was promoted into harder work. That was household inventory, without a label maker or a shopping app. The best cloth stayed near skin and beds. The rougher cloth moved toward dirt and weather. Nothing was retired until it had given everything it reasonably could. The fifth thing was building a bed in layers instead of trusting one heavy cover. Many older homes had bedrooms that stayed cold, long before whole house heating was common. A bed might hold a sheet, a blanket, a quilt, and another folded layer across the feet. Experienced hands knew exactly where the cold gathered after sunset. They knew which child kicked off the covers and which room held a draft. They knew which blanket had grown thin and which quilt belonged at the foot of the bed. A bed was not just made to look neat. It was assembled like a small shelter. The warmth came not only from the cloth, but from the air trapped between the layers. That knowledge did not come from buying more. It came from sleeping in the house and remembering what winter did. The sixth thing was making draft stoppers from old linen. A worn sheet, a torn curtain, or a long pillowcase could be filled and laid against a door. Some families used clean rags, scraps, or whatever safe filling they had on hand. The goal was simple: stop the cold line of air crawling across the floorboards. Today, a draft just means turning up the heat. In an older home, the first answer was cloth, patience, and attention to where the air came in. A draft stopper was never glamorous, but warmer feet at midnight felt like mercy in a house that never fully warmed. The seventh thing was tucking small sachets among the stored bedding. Little cloth bags held dried lavender, cedar shavings, or other clean-smelling herbs. They went into drawers, trunks, and closets to keep folded cloth fresh between seasons. Some families hoped the scent kept moths and mustiness away, though results surely varied. The point was not that every sachet worked perfectly. It was that stored bedding was watched and cared for before anyone ever needed it. The eighth thing was airing heavy bedding in the sun. Feather ticks, quilts, and comforters grew stale after weeks in a closed winter room. On a dry day, families carried them out to a line, a fence, or a sunny porch rail. Sun and moving air freshened what could not be easily washed at home. Older bedding was not always simple to clean, and modern hygiene standards exist for good reason. But the habit of mind still holds up. Before replacing something, inspect it, freshen it, see if it still has honest service left. The ninth thing was mending by lamplight before small damage became expensive damage. After supper, when the house had quieted, the sewing basket came out beside a chair. A split seam, a loose hem, or a torn pillowcase could all be caught early. The light might be a lamp, a bare bulb, or the last warm room of the evening. But the habit was the same. Repair while the tear is still small enough to respect. That is one reason old linens passed through so many lives. They were not simply used until they fell apart. They were watched. The 10th thing was saving the flannel sheets for the coldest weeks of the year. In homes that owned them, flannel was seasonal comfort, not everyday bedding. It came out when plain cotton felt icy against the legs in January. A good housekeeper knew which bedroom chilled first and which bed needed the warmer set. The flannel sheet was not just softness. It was a decision made before anyone had to ask for warmth. The 11th thing was binding a blanket before its edges frayed away. A blanket could still be warm in the middle, even after its border began to fail. Grandma took a strip from an old sheet and sewed it along the worn edge. That new binding caught the rubbing from hands, chins, bed frames, and weekly washing. The idea was simple and powerful. Protect the part that takes the strain. Farmers understood it with gates. Carpenters understood it with handles. A strong middle is wasted if you let the edge unravel. The 12th thing was making pillow protectors from old sheets. Before stores sold zippered covers in plastic packages, an extra layer of cloth did real work. A worn sheet became a simple slip that sat underneath the better pillowcase. That layer caught hair oil, sweat, dust, and the slow wear of every night. With a feather pillow, it mattered even more, because a leaking pillow was a miserable mess. The old sheet stood guard between the good pillow and the hard facts of daily life. The 13th thing was lining the bedroom curtains with old linen. A pretty curtain could soften a room, but it did little against cold glass. In a drafty house, an old sheet behind the curtain helped slow the chill. It did not make a modern insulated bedroom. It simply made the cold less direct. That mattered when a window rattled all night beside someone trying to sleep. One extra layer of cloth could turn a room from sharp to bearable. The 14th thing was covering hot water bottles with old flannel or toweling. Where families used rubber hot water bottles, a cloth cover protected skin from direct heat. Some older warming tricks used heated bricks or metal pans that should not be copied casually today. Fire, burns, and old heating methods deserve real caution, and modern safety standards exist for good reason. But the thinking behind it still makes sense. Many families tried to warm the person, not the whole house. An old towel around a warm bottle was a small, practical kindness. The 15th thing was using old sheets as mattress covers and storage cloths. A spare bed, a folded quilt, or a trunk of blankets needed protection from dust. Old linens became covers against soot, attic grit, and the dirt of a busy house. In coal-heated homes and old farmhouses, clean storage never happened by accident. Ash settled. Mice found neglected corners. Dampness had to be watched. A sheet too worn for sleeping could still protect what was underneath it. That was one of Grandma's quiet systems. The worn cloth guarded the better cloth. The 16th thing was keeping the softest old linen ready for the sick room. When fever, night sweats, or a stubborn cough came through the house, cloth had to be on hand. A worn pillowcase became a cool face cloth. A torn sheet protected the middle of a bed. Families did not always have shelves of disposable paper goods to fall back on. Cloth had to be washed, dried, folded, and ready to go again. This was never the pretty side of homemaking. But when sickness arrived, that plain soft stack mattered more than the fancy one. A linen closet proved its real worth in the most uncomfortable hours. The 17th thing was letting quilts become family memory without retiring them. A scrap quilt might hold a piece of a father's work shirt or a daughter's first dress. Not every quilt was made for sentiment. Many were made because beds were cold and cloth was dear. Still, memory attached itself to useful things. A child could sleep under squares cut from people who had held them and worked beside them. That is why an old quilt can move someone so deeply. It is not just a pattern. It is proof that someone kept cutting, stitching, and covering the next person. The 18th thing was making simple nightclothes from the softest worn sheets. When a sheet grew too thin for a bed, it could still be gentle against skin. The weak center was cut away, and the strong corners became a child's sleeping gown or a soft underslip. The point was not fashion. It was warmth, cleanliness, and one more use from cloth already in the house. A worn sheet did not retire all at once. It stepped down, from bed to body to rag. The 19th thing was hiding an old blanket inside a quilt or comforter. A blanket with stains or ugly worn spots no longer belonged on top of the bed. But if the middle still held warmth, it became the hidden inner layer. The outside might be pieced cotton or patched feed sack, with the tired blanket sealed inside. Nobody ever saw it. That was the quiet beauty of it. The worn thing did not have to look good to keep someone warm. The 20th thing was making rag rugs for cold bedroom floors. Old sheets, pillowcases, and cotton scraps were torn into strips and worked into simple rugs. Beside a bed, that rug softened the shock of bare feet on freezing floorboards. In houses where heat never reached every room, the floor told the truth first. Before anyone said the room was cold, the feet already knew. A little rug did not solve winter, but it made getting out of bed less cruel. The 21st thing was turning old pillowcases into storage bags. A pillowcase with a patched corner could still hold a quilt or a bundle of winter linens. Tied shut with a strip of cloth, it kept the dust off and the closet in order. This mattered in homes with small closets, crowded trunks, and attics that were never quite clean. A storage bag also kept a household honest. It showed what you already owned before you ever went looking to buy more. Waste often begins when useful things vanish into corners and are forgotten. The 22nd thing was the cedar chest of linens saved for a daughter's future home. In many families, the best sheets, pillowcases, and a special quilt were set aside, not used. They waited in a hope chest for a wedding, a first house, or a new baby coming home. A mother stitched and folded for years, building a small store of comfort for a child not yet grown. This was care aimed at a future the giver might never fully see. It was the linen closet stretched across a whole generation, and it tells you what these worn and saved pieces really were. Not clutter. A way of passing warmth and care down the line. The 23rd thing was using old linen to protect the good linen. A frayed sheet wrapped a better quilt folded away in a cedar chest. An old pillowcase held the guest linens or a carefully saved coverlet. A worn towel sat between folded blankets to keep rough wood from marking them. At first it sounds backward. Why save worn cloth to guard better cloth? But that was the system. The old piece took the dust, the rubbing, and the first touch of damp air. The better piece stayed ready for winter, for company, or for a new baby coming home. The 24th thing was saving small strips for ties, bands, and covers. A strip of sheet could tie a roll of blankets or hold a mending bundle together. A square of old cloth could cover a basin, cushion, something breakable, or wrap a clean item. Small pieces were not treated as useless just because they were small. In a working household, little problems came every day. A slipping stack, a loose bundle, a dusty shelf, a sharp edge against folded fabric. The smallest scrap could solve the smallest problem, and that still counted. The 25th thing was keeping a winter emergency stack. It sat on a high shelf, inside a trunk, or at the bottom of a cedar chest. Patched quilts, odd pillowcases, old towels, extra flannel, and sheets too tired for beds. When the weather turned mean, that stack became household security. It could cover a visiting relative, pad a cold bed, catch a leak, or wrap chilled feet. It was not pretty. It was readiness. And readiness was one of those old household virtues that never announced itself. Across these 25 habits, a pattern comes clear. Grandma was not just saving cloth because she hated waste. She was managing warmth, sickness, storage, memory, and the comfort of her whole family. The linen closet was not a forgotten corner of the house. It was a quiet care station. Every shelf held a decision made before trouble ever arrived. This stays near the bed. This is for sickness. This guards the good quilt. This stops a draft. This is too worn for company, but still good enough for honest work. That kind of judgment is easy to lose when replacement is quick and everything comes shrink-wrapped. Modern homes gained real comforts our grandparents would have welcomed without a second thought. Better heat, safer washing, cleaner storage. The point is not to go backward. The point is to remember how closely people once looked at what they already had. They knew the strong edge of a sheet and the weak corner of a pillowcase. They knew which blanket needed binding before winter became serious. They knew that care was usually hidden in small preparations nobody ever praised. So the old question comes back one last time. How much comfort could a household pull from cloth that was no longer new? For many families, the answer was more than warmth. It was attention. It was memory. It was a hand reaching into the closet before night fell, making sure someone would sleep covered. And maybe that is the part worth keeping, long after the cold bedrooms are gone.